Discussion and debate. Building an argument. Unit 8. Task A. Read and discuss. Listen to the reading and follow along in your textbook. The reading introduces the topic and some of the key ideas you will need to develop your argument. As you listen, think about your own views on the topic.
Ethics and rules of conduct are implicit in every honest undertaking. Businesses have their own sets of rules and principles that govern their conduct towards their employees, colleagues, clients, stakeholders, and each other. And these rules are important to the success of a business. They form guidelines for companies to follow in order to maintain public respect and achieve long-term goals and objectives. In the business environment, ethics have to be observed on all levels of an organization. As Edward Hennessy said, ethics must begin from the top of the organization. It is a leadership issue, and the chief executive must set the example. The CEO should act in accordance with the principles and policies so that others may emulate him. However, studies show that businesses are capable of behaving in profoundly unethical ways, including the assertion of falsehoods, cover-ups, falsification, and misrepresentation. This happens when getting ahead of competitors and making large gains become the primary consideration instead of safeguarding their reputation, the welfare of others, and the goodwill of their business. These businesses resort to dishonest actions by failing to keep their word to their clients, customers, and other people dealing with their enterprise. However high their ambitions and however good their intentions are to their business, it is still important to give everyone their due and observe honesty and good faith.
Task B. Comprehension check. Consider each question and use information from the reading to develop your response. Think about how these ideas could be used to support either side of the argument. Task C. Vocabulary building. Complete the vocabulary activity. Pay attention to how each word or phrase is used, as you will be encouraged to use this vocabulary when you present your argument. Now check your answers. Task D. Useful idioms. Complete the idiom activity and check the meaning of each expression. Consider whether any of these expressions could be used naturally in your argument. Now check your answers. Then take the vocabulary and idioms quiz. Task E. Discussion language. Study the discussion language and complete the activity. Practice using these expressions to help you structure and communicate your argument clearly. Task F. For and against. Listen to both model arguments and follow along in your textbook. Notice how each speaker states a position, develops reasons, introduces evidence, and uses the language from the unit. Consider which arguments you find most convincing.
Running a successful business is becoming increasingly difficult, and I believe businesses cannot be entirely ethical and still survive. One reason is that companies must constantly compete in a global marketplace where customers expect low prices, high quality, and fast service. These pressures often force businesses to act in their own self-interest rather than follow ideal ethical standards. One thing is certain: ethical expectations differ across countries, industries, and cultures, making it impossible to satisfy everyone. Another reason is that businesses must respond quickly to changing markets and consumer behavior. A 2015 Reuters news report described how Volkswagen admitted to using software that misrepresented diesel emissions during government testing. The company faced enormous pressure to remain competitive, but its actions damaged public trust and resulted in billions of dollars in penalties. This example shows how intense competition can encourage businesses to place profit ahead of ethics. Finally, modern marketing often relies on social media and rapidly spreading information. Some companies knowingly publish misinformation or commit fraud to attract attention and increase sales. Although these practices are unethical, they often reflect the reality of today's competitive marketplace. For these reasons, I believe businesses cannot always remain completely ethical and still survive.
Many successful businesses demonstrate that profitability and ethical behavior can exist together. One major advantage of ethical behavior is that companies with a strong reputation for honesty often earn customer loyalty and long-term success. Customers are more likely to support businesses that are transparent about their products, prices, and practices. No one can deny that trust is one of the most valuable assets a company can build. A 2024 Reuters news report highlighted Patagonia's investment in environmental causes, including a $4 million commitment to a conservation initiative in Chile. Rather than treating environmental responsibility as separate from its business, the company has made such commitments central to its identity. This demonstrates that ethical values and commercial success can support one another. Ethical behavior can also protect businesses from legal and reputational damage. Businesses that follow a code of conduct are less likely to violate laws, face lawsuits, or damage their public image. Some companies practice utilitarianism by balancing profit with the greatest benefit for society. Businesses that operate above board attract employees, customers, and investors. As consumers support responsible companies, ethical behavior is becoming a competitive advantage rather than a financial burden. For these reasons, I believe businesses can remain ethical while growing and succeeding.
Task G. Comprehension check. Answer the questions about the model arguments. Identify the speaker's positions and evidence, and practice challenging one of their points. This will help prepare you for the rebuttal task later. Task H. Springboard. Read the quotation and consider how it relates to the topic. Introduce the quote and explain what it demonstrates. Consider whether the quotation could be used to support your own argument. Task I. Exploring evidence. Complete the evidence activity. Each unit introduces a different type of supporting evidence. Consider how this type of evidence can make an argument more convincing and how you could use it in your own argument. Now check your answers. Then take the evidence type quiz. Task J, supporting an argument. Develop a reason for your position and support it using the type of evidence introduced in this unit. This will give you practice connecting a reason with relevant supporting evidence. Task K, gathering data. Study the infographic and identify information that could support either side of the argument. Consider which facts or data would be most useful for supporting your own position. Task L, building an argument. Now bring together what you have learned throughout the unit. Choose whether you are for or against the discussion statement. Use the Building an Argument page to state your position and develop 3 clear reasons, supported with relevant evidence. Use the evidence type introduced in this unit once in your argument, and identify your sources by giving the author or source title and the date. Where appropriate, try to incorporate the discussion language, vocabulary, and idioms you learned in the unit. When you have completed your notes, use them to record your spoken argument and post your recording to the Spoken Argument Forum. Do not simply read your notes, use them to help you explain your argument naturally. Finally, listen to another student's argument. Choose one point they made and record a rebuttal explaining why you disagree. Thank you for your efforts this week. See you in the next lesson.